9 things wise men must never do with women. In every relationship, there are lessons to be learned, but some lessons come from the most unexpected places. Today, we're diving into a topic that's not only essential for romantic relationships, but also for the way we interact with women in all aspects of life. It's about understanding the delicate balance between respect, care, and wisdom when dealing with the women in our lives. And let's be honest, sometimes it's easy to overlook the impact our actions, or lack thereof, can have on someone else. We all know that men, especially wise men, need to be mindful of the way they approach relationships. But what does it mean to be wise in a relationship with a woman? Is it about being the smartest in the room? Is it about knowing what to say or how to act in every situation? No, it's about emotional intelligence, respect, and understanding. It's about making sure that in every interaction, you're not only doing the right thing, but also thinking about the long-term effects of your behavior. So today, I'm going to walk you through 9 things that wise men must never do with women. These are not just abstract ideas or lofty concepts. These are real, actionable insights that will help you strengthen your relationships, enhance your emotional connections, and become a better partner, friend, or family member. It's about understanding the simple yet powerful truths that can guide you in any situation and help you avoid the common mistakes that can harm relationships. But here's the thing. These lessons aren't just for romantic relationships. Whether it's your sister, mother, friend, or colleague, the same principles apply. How we treat women, how we interact with them, how we listen, and how we understand their needs all contribute to a deeper, more meaningful connection. As we go through these 9 points, think about your own relationships. Reflect on the times when maybe you didn't quite get it right, or the times when you did, and the positive impact it had. Because wisdom in relationships is not about being perfect. It's about growing, learning, and making better choices every day. So, let's get started. I'm sure you'll walk away with some powerful insights that will help you not only understand women better, but also become a wiser, more compassionate person. Thing 1. Never disrespect her boundaries. Let's start with something fundamental: respecting boundaries. Now, this one might sound obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people fail at this in relationships. And it's not just about physical boundaries, it's emotional and psychological boundaries too. Boundaries are a way of telling someone, this is where I end, and this is where you begin. It's not a wall or an obstacle, but rather a space where both people feel safe, valued, and respected. And a wise man understands that without respecting boundaries, there's no trust. And without trust, there's no relationship. Think about it for a moment. Every person has their limits. It might be something as simple as needing personal time or space, or it might be deeper, like not tolerating certain kinds of behavior or language. And when those boundaries are ignored, no matter how subtle or small it might seem, it erodes the very foundation of that relationship. It's easy to forget boundaries, especially if we've been in a relationship for a while and feel comfortable. But that's exactly when we need to be the most careful. When we start taking each other for granted, when we stop asking for consent or permission in different situations, we risk losing something important. A woman's boundaries are there to protect her, not to keep you out, but to keep both of you emotionally safe. Let's imagine a scenario. You're in a long-term relationship, and perhaps you've crossed a line without realizing it. Maybe you've made a comment that you thought was harmless, but it's hurtful to her. Maybe you're doing something that you didn't think was a big deal, like not giving her space when she needs it. Now she feels suffocated, misunderstood, or disrespected. That feeling might not come out immediately, but over time, it will chip away at the emotional connection. This is why wise men never disrespect boundaries. It's not about controlling someone else. It's about having the maturity and respect to let the other person maintain their individuality. A woman's boundaries are her way of saying, this is what makes me comfortable. This is how I feel safe. And if you truly care about her, you'll honor that. Now let's talk about emotional boundaries. Women, like all of us, have emotional triggers, sensitive areas, and parts of their past that might affect how they react in certain situations. For example, if a woman has been hurt before, she might be more sensitive to certain topics or actions. A wise man takes the time to understand these emotional boundaries, not because he's walking on eggshells, but because he values the relationship and wants to create an environment where she feels heard, respected, and loved. By being conscious of her emotional boundaries, you're showing that you're paying attention to her needs, that you're more interested in nurturing a healthy, loving relationship than in your own comfort. This level of awareness takes maturity and it takes practice. But when you get it right, it builds trust and strengthens the connection between you. So the takeaway here is simple. Always, always respect her boundaries. Whether they're emotional, physical, or psychological, they're a vital part of her well-being. If you can master this, you'll create a relationship built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. Thing 2. Never ignore her voice. Moving on to the next point, never ignore her voice. Now, this one hits close to home, doesn't it? It's easy to think that listening is just about hearing what someone says, but it's so much deeper than that. When you ignore a woman's voice, you're not just ignoring her words, you're dismissing her feelings, her thoughts, and her essence. And that, my friend, is one of the quickest ways to create distance in any relationship. Let's be real for a second. We've all been in conversations where we were just kind of tuning out. Maybe we were distracted. Maybe we didn't think the topic was important, or maybe we were preoccupied with something else. But when we do this with the woman in our life, we're sending a message. Your thoughts don't matter. Your feelings are not important. Now, I'm not saying that every single conversation has to be this deep, philosophical exchange. But when it comes to the meaningful moments, when she's sharing something personal, something that matters to her, ignoring her voice is a mistake. It can make her feel invisible, unimportant, or worse, like she doesn't have the right to speak up. Here's the thing. A woman's voice is an extension of who she is. Her words carry her thoughts, emotions, and perspectives. When you listen, really listen, you're giving her the space to express herself, to be seen and heard. And that's incredibly empowering. But if you ignore her voice, even in small ways, you're inadvertently saying that she doesn't have value in the relationship. That's not wisdom. That's the opposite of it. Let's go back to an example. Maybe you're in a relationship, and your partner starts sharing something that's been bothering her. She's trying to explain her feelings, and you, for whatever reason, brush it off. You tell her, "It's not a big deal," or "You're overthinking it." What's the message here? It's that her emotions aren't worth your time or attention, and this can create a gap between you, because every time you ignore her voice, she starts to wonder, does he really care about what I'm feeling? A wise man understands that listening is an art. It's not about jumping in with solutions or offering advice immediately. Sometimes, it's just about being present and allowing her to express herself fully. This is especially true when it comes to her emotions. Women are deeply emotional beings, and their feelings are complex. When you listen attentively, without judgment or interruption, you're showing wisdom in action. Let me tell you something. Listening doesn't just mean hearing her words. It means understanding the underlying emotions, reading between the lines, and truly being present in the moment. When you take the time to listen in this way, you deepen the emotional bond between you. You show her that her voice matters, not only in that moment, but in your life as a whole. So, the key lesson here is this. A wise man never ignores a woman's voice. He listens with intent, with empathy, and with the understanding that her words carry weight. And when you do this, you'll create a stronger, more connected relationship that's built on mutual respect, love, and genuine understanding. Thing 3. Never take her for granted. All right, let's dive into something that often goes unnoticed, yet is so critical. Never take her for granted. It's one of those things that's easy to slip into when you've been in a relationship for a while. You get comfortable, everything feels stable, and sometimes, without realizing it, you stop appreciating the little things. And that's when things can start to go wrong. Taking her for granted doesn't always mean doing something big or obvious. It can be the small things, the things that you forget to say, the actions you neglect, the gratitude you stop showing. In any relationship, it's easy to fall into a routine where you expect your partner to just always be there, doing what she does, providing the support, the care, and the love. But here's the thing. No matter how long you've been together, she's not a machine, and she's not an obligation. She's a person, a woman with her own needs, her own emotions, and her own desires. And the moment you take her for granted, you're taking a step toward losing her, even if you don't realize it. Let's think about the simple things. Maybe you're used to her cooking dinner every night, or taking care of the home, or maybe she's always the one to plan your dates and organize the family gatherings. You've gotten so used to it that it's almost like you forget the effort and love she puts into these things. You think, she's always going to do that. But that's when you start losing sight of her value. Every small act she does is an expression of care, and if you don't acknowledge it, if you stop appreciating it, over time she might start to feel unseen or unappreciated. Now, think about this for a moment. How would you feel if all the things you did, the things you work hard to do for her, for the relationship, went unnoticed or unappreciated? How would you feel if she just assumed that you'd always be there to pick up the slack without ever saying thank you or showing any gratitude? It can start to wear you down, right? The same goes for her. We all need validation. We all need to feel seen, heard, and appreciated. So, never let that happen. A wise man knows that appreciation is key to a strong relationship. It's about showing that you don't take her presence for granted. A simple thank you, a small gesture, or a word of affirmation can go a long way. It doesn't have to be something grand. Sometimes the simplest things have the biggest impact. Let her know you see the effort she puts in and that you're grateful for it. Don't wait for a special occasion or a milestone. Make it a habit to show appreciation every day. Let's consider a scenario. Maybe your partner has been the one handling the kids, working a full-time job, and still making time for you. Now imagine if she starts to feel unappreciated, and that over time, she stops going the extra mile. Maybe she gets tired, frustrated, or even resentful. As a wise man, you need to stay in tune with her emotions and needs. When you take her for granted, you lose the opportunity to show how much she means to you. When you stop expressing gratitude, you risk her feeling like her efforts are invisible. So here's the key takeaway. Never, ever take her for granted. Take the time to appreciate her. The small acts, the big gestures, the moments of love and kindness. When you do this, you're not just preserving the relationship, you're actively investing in it. A wise man knows that appreciation and gratitude go hand in hand with love and respect. The more you show her that you value her, the stronger your connection will be. Thing 4, never undermine her strength. Let's talk about something that is often misunderstood in relationships. Never undermine her strength. Now, when I say strength, I'm not just talking about physical strength, although that's part of it. I'm talking about her inner strength, her resilience, her ability to face challenges and overcome obstacles. A wise man recognizes this strength and celebrates it. But sometimes, in an effort to protect or help her, men can unintentionally undermine it. And when that happens, it can cause long-lasting emotional damage. One of the most important things to remember in any relationship is that women are strong. We live in a world where women are constantly proving their resilience, juggling multiple roles, and handling challenges that many men will never fully understand. And a wise man understands this and does not diminish or belittle her strength. He doesn't try to fix her or act like she needs saving, especially when she's already handling things on her own. There's a big difference between supporting her and trying to take control of her life. When you undermine her strength, even in small ways, you send the message that you don't trust her abilities. Maybe it's something as simple as constantly offering unsolicited advice, or maybe it's doubting her decisions or actions. These things, over time, can chip away at her confidence and sense of self-worth. She may start to question herself and her own abilities. Let's consider an example. Imagine your partner is going through a tough time at work. She's handling it, staying strong, but you step in and start telling her what to do, how to do it, and what she's doing wrong. Maybe you mean well, maybe you're trying to help, but what you're really doing is diminishing her autonomy and her ability to solve her own problems. Instead of supporting her strength, you're inadvertently making her feel small. A wise man knows that true support doesn't mean taking over or controlling the situation. It means being there to listen, to encourage, and to help when needed, but never undermining her ability to handle things on her own. It means acknowledging her strengths, whether she's dealing with a challenge at work, managing the household, or simply navigating life's ups and downs. A wise man is proud of her strength, not threatened by it. Think about the women in your life who inspire you. Your mother, your sister, your partner, or a friend. Think about the ways they've shown strength in their own lives. How would you feel if someone tried to take that strength away from them, or made them feel like they weren't capable? A wise man uplifts the women around him, celebrates their strength, and lets them know that their abilities are respected. The bottom line here is that a woman's strength is a powerful thing. A wise man doesn't undermine it. He supports it. He recognizes it, respects it, and knows that part of being a wise partner is understanding when to step back and let her stand on her own. When you do this, you're empowering her to grow, to flourish, and to be the best version of herself. And that's something truly wise men do in every relationship they have. Thing 5. Never dismiss her feelings. Now let's move on to something that, unfortunately, many men overlook at some point in their relationships. Never dismiss her feelings. This is one of those things that can slowly wear down the connection between two people if it's not handled with care. It might seem like a small thing, but dismissing her feelings, whether it's in a moment of frustration, sadness, or joy, can be one of the most damaging things you can do. Let's start with a fundamental truth. Emotions are powerful. They influence how we think, how we act, and how we perceive the world around us. And while we all have different ways of processing emotions, one thing remains true across the board. Everyone wants to feel understood, especially when they're in an emotional state. That's why dismissing her feelings is such a big deal. It's not just about brushing off a temporary emotion. It's about invalidating what she's going through. It's about telling her, in subtle or not so subtle ways, that what she feels doesn't matter. For example, let's say she's upset about something at work or in the relationship. Maybe it's a tough day and she comes home, needing to talk it out. What do? You tell her, "It's not a big deal," or "You're overreacting." While you might think you're helping by downplaying the situation, what you're really doing is telling her that her emotions don't matter. This can lead to frustration, confusion, and resentment. She may feel that you're not even trying to understand where she's coming from, and that's a hard pill to swallow for anyone in a relationship. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything she says or feel the same emotions she's feeling. You're allowed to have your own perspective, but it's essential to acknowledge her feelings, even if you don't completely understand them or agree with them. Empathy is key. By empathizing with her, you're not just validating her emotions. You're showing that you care about how she feels, and that's something every wise man should do in a relationship. Think about it this way. If someone dismisses your feelings, how do you feel? Hurt, misunderstood, frustrated, maybe even alone. We all have emotions that are part of who we are, and when we try to ignore or dismiss someone else's emotions, we create a gap between us. Dismissing her feelings may seem like an easy way to avoid conflict or avoid dealing with the issue at hand, but in the long run, it's a roadblock to intimacy and emotional connection. A wise man knows the power of listening, truly listening to her feelings. When she shares her frustrations, her sadness, or even her happiness, listen with the intent to understand, not to solve. Sometimes, A woman just needs someone to hear her, to feel seen, and to be supported. She's not always looking for solutions or advice. She's looking for validation. And that validation can go a long way in making her feel loved and understood. So remember this: never dismiss her feelings. Validate them, listen to them, and respond with empathy. The emotional connection you build by acknowledging her emotions will strengthen the bond between you and make your relationship more resilient. Thing 6. Never control, always collaborate. Moving on to one of the most important concepts in a relationship: never control, always collaborate. This is a huge one, because at the heart of a successful partnership, there has to be a sense of equality. No relationship is healthy when one person is constantly trying to dominate the other or take control of every situation. Control doesn't create a healthy dynamic. Collaboration does. Now, when I say control, I'm not talking about the simple decisions we make every day, like where to eat or what movie to watch. I'm talking about the deeper, more manipulative forms of control that can creep into relationships. This could be trying to dictate her choices, her time, her career, or even the way she thinks and feels. The truth is, when a man tries to control a woman, he's not just disrespecting her as an equal partner, he's undermining the very foundation of the relationship itself. Take a moment to think about how a controlling behavior plays out. Imagine you're constantly telling your partner what to wear, who she can hang out with, or what career choices she should make. While you might think you're guiding her or helping, what you're really doing is restricting her freedom and autonomy. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that your way is the right way, but relationships are built on trust and respect. And trust and respect only exist when both individuals are allowed to make decisions independently and come to mutual agreements. A wise man knows that collaboration is key. Instead of trying to control, he chooses to collaborate with her. Collaboration means working together as equals, each person bringing their own strengths, ideas, and opinions to the table. It's about making decisions together, sharing responsibilities, and respecting each other's individuality. When you collaborate, you create a space where both of you feel valued and heard, and where both of you can thrive. Think about the difference between controlling and collaborating. When you control someone, you create an environment of fear, resentment, and disempowerment. When you collaborate, you create an environment of trust, mutual respect, and shared growth. A woman wants to feel like her voice matters, that her decisions are valued, and that she's an equal partner in the relationship. She doesn't want to be told what to do or who to be. She wants to build a life with someone who respects her individuality and sees her as a strong, capable person. Let's take a real-world example. Maybe your partner is passionate about pursuing a career or a hobby that you don't fully understand or agree with. You might be tempted to step in and tell her to focus on something else, or to do it your way. But a wise man would recognize that her passions are a part of who she is. Instead of controlling the situation, he would choose to collaborate. He would offer support, listen to her ideas, and respect her decisions, even if they're different from his own. Collaboration, not control, allows both partners to grow and thrive. So here's the important lesson: never control, always collaborate. A wise man knows that relationships are partnerships. They require cooperation, mutual respect, and a shared vision for the future. By choosing collaboration over control, you create a foundation of equality and trust that will last through the ups and downs of life. When both partners feel empowered and valued, the relationship becomes stronger, deeper, and more fulfilling for both. Thing 7. Never let ego stand in the way of love. Let's dive into one of the most common challenges in relationships: ego. Now, I'm not talking about self-esteem or healthy confidence. Those are important qualities. I'm talking about the ego that creates barriers, the kind that interferes with love and connection. If you've ever found yourself caught in a power struggle, too proud to admit you were wrong, or unwilling to be vulnerable, then you know what I mean. Ego in relationships can be a silent killer. It can make small issues feel insurmountable, and it can prevent both partners from ever truly understanding each other. The ego demands that we be right, that we are in control, and that we protect ourselves from any perceived weakness. But love, true love, requires humility, vulnerability, and the willingness to put the other person's needs before our own pride. Think about this. When was the last time you had an argument with your partner? And let's be honest, how much of that argument was fueled by ego? Maybe you were so focused on proving you were right, or maybe you didn't want to back down, even though deep down you knew it didn't matter. That's the ego talking, and when the ego is in the driver's seat, love takes a backseat. A wise man knows that love isn't about winning. It's about understanding, compromise, and building a partnership where both people feel respected. If you're holding on to your ego, if you're more concerned about being right than about preserving the relationship, then you're doing both yourself and your partner a disservice. Love requires humility. It requires recognizing when you're wrong and being willing to apologize. Not because you're weak, but because you value the relationship more than your need to be right. Here's the reality. Ego often leads to distance, while vulnerability and humility bring you closer. Think about the most intimate moments in your relationship, the times when you felt the deepest connection. In those moments, did you feel like you needed to be right? Or were you willing to open up, let down your guard, and connect on a deeper level? When you let your ego go, you allow space for true connection and emotional intimacy. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but what if I'm always the one who has to apologize? What if it feels like I'm always the one giving in? And that's a valid concern. But here's the truth. A relationship is not a competition, and it's not about keeping score. It's about love, mutual respect, and understanding. If you truly love her, then the ego should never stand in the way of maintaining that connection. When you choose love over ego, you create a relationship based on mutual respect and understanding. A wise man understands that love is not about being right all the time. It's about choosing each other over pride. So, let go of your ego, admit when you're wrong, and watch your relationship grow stronger. Thing 8. Never use her for your own gain. Now, this is a big one, and it might be uncomfortable for some to hear. Never use her for your own gain. This can be one of the most toxic behaviors in any relationship, and it often comes disguised as something much more innocent. You may not realize you're doing it, but using your partner, emotionally, financially, or even just for validation, is a form of manipulation that ultimately damages the relationship. Let's break it down. Sometimes men fall into the trap of thinking that they can get ahead in life by leaning on their partner. Maybe it's asking for emotional support without offering anything in return, using her kindness to get out of difficult situations, or even taking advantage of her resources. While this may seem harmless in the moment, when one person is consistently using the other for personal gain, it creates an imbalance in the relationship. One person is giving, while the other is taking. Over time, this dynamic leads to resentment and emotional exhaustion. Imagine a situation where your partner is constantly there for you when you need her, offering emotional support, doing things for you, or even helping with practical things like finances or decisions. But when she needs something in return, you're nowhere to be found. You've been using her to make your life easier or more comfortable, but you haven't been reciprocating in a way that's meaningful to her. Over time, she will begin to feel unappreciated, and this imbalance will erode the trust and emotional connection between you. A wise man knows that relationships are about mutual respect and reciprocity. They're not about one person taking advantage of the other. Love is about partnership, not exploitation. When you truly love someone, you want what's best for them, just as much as you want what's best for yourself. It's about both of you growing, both of you giving, and both of you finding ways to lift each other up. Take a moment to reflect on this. Are there times when you've used your partner for your own benefit without considering how it makes her feel? Maybe you've relied on her emotional support, but when it's her turn, you haven't been there in the same way. Or maybe you've made decisions without consulting her, assuming she'll just follow along because it's easier for you. These aren't just small mistakes, they're behaviors that can seriously hurt the relationship in the long run. Here's the truth. Love is not a transaction. It's not about using each other to get ahead or to feel validated. It's about being there for each other, supporting each other, and building each other up. A wise man knows that his partner is not a tool to be used. She's an equal partner, deserving of respect, love, and support. Every relationship is a two-way street, and if you're only focused on taking, you're not creating the healthy, balanced relationship that both of you deserve. The takeaway here is simple but powerful. Never use her for your own gain. When you value your partner as an equal, when you give as much as you take, you create a strong, fulfilling relationship based on trust, respect, and love. If you want to build something real, something lasting, then be the partner who gives, supports, and loves unconditionally. Because that's what truly wise men do. Thing 9, never stop learning about her. We've reached the final point, never stop learning about her. This might sound a bit unusual, but it's one of the most important truths in any relationship. Relationships aren't static. People grow, change, and evolve over time, and so do their needs, desires, and perspectives. A wise man understands that a relationship is an ongoing journey of discovery. It's not just about understanding who she is right now, but also about growing with her and adapting to the changes that life brings. Think about it. When you first meet someone, there's a sense of wonder and curiosity. You want to know everything about them, their favorite food, their dreams, their quirks, their fears. You ask questions, you pay attention to their reactions, and you're genuinely interested in learning about their world. But as time goes on, it's easy to fall into a routine. You think you know everything there is to know about her. You've heard the stories, you've had the conversations, and you've experienced all the highs and lows together. But that's when the danger sets in. The danger of thinking that you know her completely. The danger of forgetting that people change. A wise man never stops learning about his partner. He recognizes that she's constantly evolving, as a person, as a woman, as a partner. Her interests, her dreams, her feelings, they all shift over time. And instead of just assuming that he knows what she needs or wants, a wise man keeps asking, keeps learning, and keeps discovering new things about her. He never takes her for granted, never assumes he knows everything. Consider this example. Perhaps she's been going through a phase where she's been more focused on her career, her goals, or her personal growth. At first, you might think she's distant or uninterested, but if you stop and pay attention, you'll realize that this is simply a phase of her evolving. Maybe she needs more space to focus, or maybe she's working on something that excites her. The wise man sees this shift and takes the time to understand it. He asks her questions, he listens, and he supports her as she grows. He doesn't make assumptions. Instead, he makes it a point to learn about her new passions, new goals, and the things that are important to her in this stage of life. And the same goes for every stage of her life. Whether she's a new mom, navigating a career change, or dealing with personal challenges, a wise man is committed to learning alongside her. He keeps the curiosity alive. He never stops asking about her dreams, her fears, her desires. Even when they've been together for years, there's always something new to discover. This is where many relationships fall short. We get comfortable. We think we know everything about each other. And while familiarity is important in a relationship, it's just as crucial to keep that sense of wonder alive. If you stop asking questions, if you stop being curious about her world, then you risk growing apart. And a relationship that isn't growing isn't really a relationship at all. It's just two people coexisting. So here's the key takeaway. Never stop learning about her. Keep asking, keep listening, and keep growing together. As she changes, as she evolves, your understanding of each other should evolve too. When you do this, you'll find that your relationship becomes even deeper, more fulfilling, and more connected. The bond between you will be stronger than ever, because you'll always be learning, exploring, and experiencing life together, side by side. Conclusion: wisdom in love. Now, As we wrap things up, I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've covered today. These 9 things wise men must never do with women are more than just rules or guidelines. They are principles that shape the way we interact with the people we love. And while it's easy to think that wisdom is about knowing the right answers, in relationships, wisdom is more about asking the right questions, being present, and constantly growing together. Remember, wisdom in love is not about perfection. It's not about never making mistakes or always having the right answer. It's about learning, adapting, and becoming a better partner every single day. It's about listening, respecting, and valuing her, not just for who she is, but for who she's becoming. So, to all the wise men out there, remember this: love is a continuous journey, not a destination. Keep learning, keep growing, keep valuing the woman by your side. And above all, never forget the importance of kindness, respect, and emotional connection. When you approach your relationship with wisdom, you'll create a bond that not only stands the test of time, but also brings out the best in both of you. In the end, relationships are about building each other up, not tearing each other down. They're about collaboration, not control. And above all, they're about love. The kind of love that's built on mutual respect, understanding, and the willingness to grow together, no matter what life throws your way. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the 9 things wise men must never do with women. May these lessons help you create stronger, more meaningful connections with the women in your life, because when wisdom and love come together, they create something truly beautiful.